Welcome to Biodiesel Magazine's 2019 Editorial Outlook webinar. My name is Ron Kotrba, and I'm the editor of Biodiesel Magazine. Today, I'm going to be joined by John Nelson, our marketing and sales director, for a fast-paced overview of who we are, who our audience is, and the various platforms we have in our product line, including our quarterly print magazine, website, biweekly e-newsletter, the Biodiesel Industry Directory, and more. Then we're going to quickly go over the components of our print magazine, followed by our editorial calendar for the upcoming year and planned bonus distribution for our 4 print issues we're planning for 2019. You'll want to stay on the line because at the end of our broadcast, we have an exclusive discount on print advertising for those of you attending this webinar. Before I hand it over to John, I'm going to make a few comments on the state of the U.S. biodiesel industry. 2018 has proven to be another challenging but promising year for the sector. Of note, we saw in this past year, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt step down and be replaced by Acting Administrator Andrew Wheeler, and that's a move I can't imagine anyone in the biofuel space is upset over. The first year of the Trump administration's EPA, led by Pruitt, saw record numbers of petitions and approvals for the small refinery exemptions, even granted to some of the biggest, most profitable oil companies in the world, which essentially gives them a pass to legally sidestep their obligated volume requirements under the Renewable Fuel Standard. These unwarranted exemptions have reduced real demand for biodiesel by hundreds of millions of gallons and sent RIN values plummeting. 2018 also has been another year without the biodiesel tax credit. On the bright side, a growing number of bipartisan members of Congress are pushing for a multi-year reinstatement of the tax credit. And with the National Biodiesel Board's trade cases against Argentina and Indonesia having been won and hefty tariffs put in place, the National Biodiesel Board is no longer pushing to reform the tax credit from a blender's to a domestic producer's credit. And as a result, the NBB and the Advanced Biofuels Association have once again a unified voice in pushing Congress to renew the blender's tax credit. Regarding EPA and the small refinery exemptions, this shady activity was brought to light out of the shadows, and with new transparency mechanisms EPA made available under pressure from biofuel groups and key lawmakers, we hope and we expect things will turn around at the agency. We're also encouraged by the EPA's proposed growth in the biomass-based diesel category of the Renewable Fuel Standard. Earlier this year, the EPA proposed to grow the biodiesel standard from 2.1 billion gallons to 2.43 billion gallons, be a growth of 330 million gallons from 2019 to 2020. And the final rule is expected to come out no later than late November. So despite these political and regulatory uncertainties and challenges, we are seeing record vegetable oil production putting downward pressure on biodiesel feedstock prices. And at the same time, we're seeing crude oil prices rise, and coupled together, these two dynamics are improving biodiesel production margins. Furthermore, the California's low carbon fuel standard credit prices are approaching $200 a ton. And interestingly, a side note, for the first time in our long history of producing our U.S. and Canada biodiesel plant map, California made the top 5 list of states having the most biodiesel productive capacity. That's a first for us, and we've been producing this map for well over 10 years. We just recently completed our 2019 map and sent it to the printers, and this is a project that involves a lot of phone time with producers and a lot of research, and I can tell you that without a doubt, there was a lot of activity taking place in the biodiesel sector this past year, and that's evidenced by the changes you'll see on our new map that include expansions, debottlenecking, and acquisitions. The 2019 map will be mailed out with our fall print issue of Biodiesel Magazine, the issue we're wrapping up tomorrow. So we look forward to welcoming 2019 and all the challenges and opportunities it will present. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to John Nelson, and I'll be back in a bit to discuss the print magazine, its elements, and our themes and bonus distribution for next year. John?
Thank you, Ron. Again, I always appreciate your commentary at the beginning of these webinars. Always very insightful, kind of give you an idea, really gives you a nice picture of where the industry is at and where it's heading. So thank you, Ron, for taking the time to explain that. So what we're going to cover on this webinar is we're going to look at the audience breakdown on the print side. We're going to look at the online side, some of the presence and reach that we're able to accomplish with that. A couple new things on the custom content side that we've added to Biodiesel Magazine this year. So we're gonna take a little look into that. We'll chat a little bit about the Biodiesel Directory. Then we're gonna look inside the magazine itself. What are those editorial highlights? And then, as Ron mentioned, there is a discount at the end that all attendees will be able to get. So the first look, this slide right here, when we're looking at this is specifically to our print circulation and our, the print publication and where it is distributed. So we're taking a look at the audience of our print magazine, which goes out quarterly all over the world, as you can see here. So again, 41 countries receive our print publication. We push out roughly 5,000 magazines. 2.6 readers per issue is kind of when we've done third-party research. We've identified that each publication gets read 2.6 times, and that's where that number is coming from. We have a little more detail on that inside some of our media kits and so on. So if you are interested in more information on that, we can provide that for you. 860 are the number of attendees or the number of future and existing producers that also receive each of these publications. So each quarter we're sending it to everyone we have marked as a future existing producer or a biofuels producer within our system. Within the industry. So in addition, we do distribute to every attendee of the National Biodiesel Conference, and that is the winter issue. Now, I'm not going to go into all those details right now. Ron will go into that when he talks about each individual specific issue. But altogether, we come to about 13,000 as a total audience. So when you buy an advertisement, a print advertisement inside a Biodiesel magazine, you can expect about 13,000 to be viewing that. Now, taking a look at the industry itself, now these are industry codes. So when we say industries, we're talking about industry codes specifically on this graph. And what we have here is you have almost a quarter of our readership are biofuels producers or future producers listed as that when they sign up to receive our publication. So 14% are in the consulting end. We have a lot of equipment and services reading it, academia, technology, engineering, and then a kind of a plethora of other industry types. They categorize themselves. Again, it could be farming, it could be whatever it may be, but those fall into our other category there as well. But again, almost a quarter of the readership of our circulation is a biofuels producer, specifically biodiesel. So, and then you'll kind of see the stuff with the world map. Again, 89% of the magazine subscribers are within the U.S. However, some of our print does reach outside the U.S. Obviously, we're in 41 countries. But with that said, you're going to see that shift a little bit when we get into our online presence. One thing I do want to note on this slide is really when you look down and you see we've got a quote from the National Biodiesel Board. And if you take a second to read that, really it's saying Biodiesel Magazine has long been a key resource to the industry for information, insights, and connections, and they've partnered with us. So what we're saying there is we are one of the few publications that is endorsed by the National Biodiesel Board, and we take pride in that, and it just shows how long we've been in the industry, how long Ron's been in the industry, and how we have become really the thought leader and the place people go to get information on the industry. So now this next slide that we're going into, again, all these, this is our online presence. So biodieselmagazine.com. At a quick glance, you can see on the left-hand side, That's what the web page looks like, and you can see we have advertisements in there, kind of sprinkled in with all the content that is being produced by Ron and his team. So these are all original stories on Biodiesel Magazine. We do some press releases as well, but this is all pretty much Ron and his team creating original content and posting it up here. And so what we're looking at is, if you're looking to advertise within that content, here are some of the numbers that you would be working with. So what we see are almost 37,000 page views per month. Again, this is specific to biodiesel, people looking, within the biodiesel industry itself. Almost 21,000 visits per month, unique visits per month. And so when you look over to the right side, again, we've got a bunch of countries highlighted here. What you're looking at is during the year, you're seeing, 80,000 are coming from within the U.S., specific unique page visits. These aren't page views, these are actual unique individuals. So you got almost 80,000 within the U.S., and then you start looking around, and where majority of people on our print side were within the U.S., you can see it really starts to become more international on the online side. So you're looking at India, with 9,000 some unique visitors. You've got Canada, obviously, but you've got a lot going on in the UK, Germany, Australia, and so on. So you can kind of see our presence is worldwide. So all these stories, any story we post is being read worldwide. Any ad you're purchasing and putting on biodieselmagazine.com is being viewed worldwide. And so we really want to make that, make you aware of that. So one thing we do want to note here is our social media presence. Now, again, why is this important? So you're looking at Twitter, for example. We have, 5,000 some followers on Facebook. We have 2,700 followers in LinkedIn and so on. So every story that Ron and his team creates, we post on our social media sites. And what does that do? That means people are looking at it on Facebook, on Twitter. They're clicking on it, and they're coming back to Biodiesel Magazine, where they will see your advertisement. So they're reading, they're seeing it on a social media site, they're clicking it, it's bringing them back, and hopefully your advertisement is right there and is seen and clicked on, and then they go to your website. So I'm going to keep moving on here. So here's a couple things that we have going on within that help our reach to the biodiesel industry. So these are some products that we have. We have our e-newsletter that goes out bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks, Ron and his team have put together content that goes out on this e-newsletter, and that goes to 13,500 plus subscribers. And you can see some of our online advertising starts as low as $149. So if you're looking at, hey, where do I spend my dollar, and I want to just get out and get in front of these people, this is a great place to start if you're looking at doing some advertising. We also have videos, so you can become a video sponsor. So Ron, every 2 weeks, and his team put together content that is produced into a video and posted online. It's pushed on our e-newsletter. It's put on the website itself. Again, that goes out to 13,500, and it goes onto our website as well, where it's seen by all the visitors, all the impressions that are happening on our website as well. And you can look at sponsorship packages. So if you are interested in becoming a sponsor of those videos, we produce a commercial at the beginning of that video for you. And just like a TV commercial, you get to talk about your product and so on. We also have our webinar series. So just like the webinar you're listening to today and you're on, you can also become a webinar sponsor, where we will post, we will put your company's logo on, and we'll push it out to all of our email lists, and we'll push it out on the website, and we'll create basically a virtual event for you, talking about your products and services with Ron, and Ron being the moderator for that event. And so we always see roughly, 200-ish attend registrants. 200 to 300 is kind of where we see people registering for those webinars. So it's in addition to that, you get the contact information from the people that register. So if you're looking for a good way to just create some strong direct marketing and I need some leads, I need some company names, it's a perfect avenue for you to go as a marketer. A couple new things this year that we want to talk about is we want to talk about some of the custom content that we are developing and giving to someone who's looking to maybe add some credibility to their products and services. So we've got one thing we have here is the products and services spotlight feature section. And I'm not going to go too much into detail in this because I know Ron is going to a little bit later. But really what we're doing is we have a feature article that talks about that we call Biodiesel Magazine Spotlight section. And really he's looking at creating a custom story about your company, your product or service. And again, that's mailed to all of our readers. We also add a print advertisement with that. So it's kind of a package deal where you get a little bit of content and you get an ad all kind of packaged together that's put together by Ron and then our production team as well with the advertisement. So we also will give you reprints of those articles that you can send out. So it really adds, if you're looking for an article and you're looking for some credibility and you still want some advertising, it's a great option for you. And the package price is at a great price point for you to get into the magazine at. So moving on, we talk a little bit, I just mentioned a little bit about reprints. Here we're talking about if you are featured or you have a story or you have contributed to Biodiesel Magazine, we are able to create custom reprints of those articles for you. Again, as you can read here, there's a lot of ways to utilize those reprints, helping you add credibility to your marketing, to your product, to your service, sending that out to your stakeholders, and just giving you more ammo when you're at a convention or you're emailing information out to customers. You can say, hey, look, I was in Biodiesel Magazine. Look at, I do know what I'm talking about. I am, they believe in me. So here you go. The next thing I want to talk about is custom press releases. Now, again, this is new as well. So if you have a new product or service that you want to talk about, we are willing to send out a press release over our news wire. We're also willing to help you write that custom press release, and we do have packages for that. So if you're saying, hey, I have a new product, I want to just send my information out about that product, as long as it's packaged in a newsworthy way, and we are willing to send that out over our Biodiesel news wire. So if you're interested in those packages, again, get with one of our account managers. You can talk to Chip or Howard, and they'd be more than happy to help you with that. One of the last things I want to talk about is our Biodiesel Directory. Again, this is one of our other ancillary products. Ron did chat a little bit about our map, and it's always popular, and you can purchase advertising on our biodiesel plant map, which goes out to every biodiesel facility each year, and he does an outstanding job making sure that content within that map is up to date and about as clean as it possibly can be. But what I'd like to talk about here is the Biodiesel Directory. So this is printed with the winter issue. And we did take some time this year, and Ron and his team kind of went through the listings and the categories, and they kind of revamped them to really make them specific to the biodiesel industry. So take a look at that. There's some new things going on, so you'll definitely want to take a look at that. But we do have November 7th is the deadline to get advertising in there. But we do have, what I would recommend is, for sure, if you're not going to do advertising, make sure you take advantage of our free listing. You get one free print and one free online listing within the directory After that, you can start doing multiple listings for just $75, or you can start adding logos and really stand out. And again, that's for $115. But definitely take a look at that Biodiesel Industry Directory. It is extremely popular. Every event we go to, these things fly off the shelf, out of the booth. They're one of the first things to go. And so when people within the biodiesel industry, producers, they're looking for people that can help them service their facilities, this is a great place. This is where they go. They open this up and say, well, these people are familiar with the biodiesel industry, so I'm gonna work with these companies first. So definitely take a look at that. Take advantage of your free listing. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Ron and let him kind of finish out and talk a little bit about the highlights coming up.
Hey, thank you, John. I appreciate everybody joining us again today. And right now, what I'd like to do is briefly go over the contents of our print issues. So what you're looking at here on slide 8 is the contents page from our summer 2018 print edition of Biodiesel Magazine. And as you can see, we covered a wide range of important issues facing the industry today. Some of these include the biodiesel industry's successful efforts to allow B20 use in California under the what's called the Alternative Diesel Fuels Regulation. Under the ADF, it's required that NOx-reducing additives are approved and used in order to allow for the sale and use of biodiesel blends at the 20% level. And just over a year's time, we went from having none to having a handful of approved formulations from some of the largest companies in the space, chemical companies and biodiesel companies. So that's a really positive sort of outcome, and sort of a positive story on how the biodiesel industry continues to overcome obstacles. So check that out. It was printed earlier this year in a summer issue, late summer. So check that out, and it's been well received. Other articles in that issue included development of new products such as biodiesel-based lighter fluid, and that was also quite an interesting story about how a biodiesel producer and an inventor sort of joined forces and developed new products and sort of developed a hedge against some of the ups and downs that come along with the fuel industry. So check that out as well. And we also feature columns from industry experts. Also, as John mentioned before, one of the things we introduced in 2017 was what we were calling our Spotlight feature article. And that's become a mainstay, and it allows companies, like John said, an affordable way to promote their products, services, and activities. I write these articles, and I work with the companies that participate, and I write these articles, and it's been an opportunity for not only for these companies, but for me to, having been in the space for about 15 years, to learn about new companies and new offerings. So it's been a sort of a win-win. And I think when I can learn something new, it also tells me that there's some readers in the space who are going to learn something new as well. So how it works is participants in this Spotlight buy a display ad, and it sort of complements the benefits of the advertisement with an editorial profile written by me, like I said, on the company and services that it markets to the industry. And some of the reasons that it's created a good opportunity include, providing a platform for companies to get their name out there in a value-added way. But we also, like John mentioned, we offer free reprints to participants, a free email blast to our biodiesel list of more than 35,000 industry stakeholders. And that email blast includes a thank you letter to the participants. It includes a hyperlink to URL to their website. And then the magazine not only gets printed and distributed to all the folks that John mentioned earlier, but it also gets posted online as well, and it gets disseminated out in our e-newsletter and through our social networking platforms and things like that. So it's you really get a lot of bang for your buck in the Spotlight. Next slide, please. What we're going to do now is go over our editorial calendar, themes, and bonus distribution. Next slide, please. Our 2019 winter issue will once again be printed, like John said, and bound with our 2019 Biodiesel Industry Directory. This has historically been one of our most popular issues. It receives the widest bonus distribution as a result of the directory being bound to it. And like John mentioned, we have overhauled the directory categories to better reflect the needs of biodiesel producers. So if you get an opportunity, check that out. The categories are revamped, overhauled. We've eliminated some and added others, and sort of did a reorganization and a nice overhaul. So check that out when you get an opportunity. Deadline's coming up, like John mentioned, it's November 7th, which is less than a month away. We're going to debut the winter issue in the directory at the National Biodiesel Conference and Expo in San Diego in January. It's going to be distributed in the conference attendee handbags handed out at the registration desk, and then followed by a number of major biofuel conferences throughout the year. Our theme for the winter issue is project development, plant optimization, expansions, retrofits, mergers and acquisitions, production technologies, and also a year in review and an industry outlook. Again, the deadline for the directory closes November 7th, and advertising closes for the winter print issue that's affixed to the directory on November 26th. So time is nigh, if you will, and if you want to be part of that issue, which has again historically been one of our most popular and widely distributed print magazines, I'd advise you to contact your account manager, Chip Sherrick or Howard Brockhouse, today. If you don't have an account manager, give us a call at 701-746-8385, and we'll get you set up. Next slide, please. Our spring issue will focus on feedstock, and it's important to note that this issue will also be mailed to all attendees of the National Biodiesel Conference. And in addition to that, it's going to be sent to some important feedstock-related events later in the year, such as the annual meeting of the American Society of Agriculture and Biological Engineers and the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo. Of course, the correlation there between the Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo and biodiesel is that every year we see more and more distillers' corn oil being used as feedstock for biodiesel production, and the idea and the realization of co-locating biodiesel and renewable diesel facilities at ethanol plants has been talked about for a long time, and actually has been materializing here in the past few years. So in 2018, this past spring issue, it was a highly popular issue and exceeded our expectations. So while the winter issue has historically been one of our most popular print issues, the spring issue is quickly catching up. And again, it's important to note that we're closing advertising on the spring issue earlier next year than we did this year. So if you want to be part of this growingly popular issue, the spring issue of Biodiesel Magazine, don't delay and get in touch with one of our account managers here today. Next slide, please. Our summer issue will once again focus on fuel quality, additives, testing and analytical services, post-treatment technologies, plant automation, instrumentation, process controls, and finally, co-product utilization. Bonus distribution includes being mailed to all attendees of the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and distribution at the Algae Biomass Summit. Next slide, please. Finally, our fall issue focuses on federal and state policies and regulations, RIN quality assurance programs, auditing, accounting, market growth, distribution, imports, exports, logistics, and infrastructure. Bonus distribution for our fall issue of 2019 will include the PowerGen International Conference, and that has a whopping attendance of 20,000 people, and an NBB membership meeting, as well as the Biofuels International Conference. Next slide. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a brief overview of our editorial calendar for the upcoming year. I want to, at this point, give special thanks to our sponsor today, the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo. It's going to be taking place June 10th through June 12th next year in Indianapolis. Also of note, the Fuel Ethanol Workshop will feature a dedicated advanced biofuel track as well, so don't miss it. Next slide. Before we get to the exclusive offer, I want to bring to your attention a few upcoming events. Our 2019 Biomass Magazine Editorial Outlook webinar will take place October 24th. And as some of you may know, in addition to being editor of Biodiesel Magazine, I'm also a senior editor with Biomass Magazine. Ethanol Producer Magazine's 2019 Editorial Outlook webinar will take place on Halloween, October 31st. And then we have the International Biomass Conference and Expo. That's an event that will take place next year on March 18th to March 20th in Savannah, Georgia. And once again, as I mentioned before, the Fuel Ethanol Workshop will be in Indianapolis, June 10th through 12th. Next slide, please. And finally, our exclusive discount. Attendees of this webinar can save 20% on one full-page advertisement in Biodiesel Magazine. This expires January 1st, so it'd be a great opportunity to purchase a discounted full-page ad in our upcoming winter issue. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and thanks again to John Nelson, and we look forward to working with you in 2019. Have a great afternoon and a great rest of the year.